And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Call with your questions at 888 Car Clinic. On the hotline with us now is James Bell, GM's Head of Consumer Affairs. It's great to have James back in the house. We're celebrating a milestone today. James, thanks for joining us.
Oh, absolutely, Bobby. Yeah, GM is pretty proud of what it's done. But more importantly, I think it's pretty exciting when you think about all the families it's helped. So I'm happy to talk about this.
You know, folks, what we're referring to is over the past 100 plus years, General Motors has produced more than 500 million vehicles globally. And James, put that number into perspective for our Car Clinic listeners and viewers.
Well, first thing to think about is that we are the first car company to hit that kind of number. Pretty proud of that fact. And, you know, from an industrial perspective, it's worth noting. But from my personal view as head of consumer affairs, I like to think about the impact on families. How many people around the world have been able to go on their summer road trips in a GM car over this time? How many people have gone to the grocery store and made sure their family has what they need, to go into soccer practice? And again, not just in the U.S., but all around the globe. You know, we obviously have facilities in Asia and in South America and a long history in Europe. So we truly are a global company. We're much more than just, you know, your Chevy truck out in your driveway. So I think that's what's really something about this.
I couldn't agree more. I understand during 2015 you expect to sell more than 1,000 vehicles per hour, 24 hours per day. What does that say about the health of the U.S. auto industry?
Well, I think it says if a company is able to make that kind of claim and call out that kind of swagger, then it must be doing pretty darn good. And it is. I mean, we still see a lot of pent-up demand for certain types of vehicles, and we see a little bit of concern, I think, just starting to eke back into the business about how we're going to do when it comes to fuel prices. And so I think you're going to start to see some more pickup in demand on more fuel-efficient type vehicles. So, no, the car business is back. Not only are the numbers and the sales great, but I think more importantly, the fact that we're seeing car companies be smart about what they're trying to sell. They're not overproducing certain vehicles, making sure that the balance between production and inventory is strong and smart. And so not only are the sales numbers up, but the companies are being pretty good and pretty smart about it too.
Well, you're talking about the company. What's the sentiment inside GM these days about not only this accomplishment, but your current product lineup?
Oh, we feel real good about it. I'm probably most excited about the fact that when you look at some of the different vehicles that we've just introduced that are going to be coming in the market in the near future, we can really see that the designers have finally been untethered and allowed to do some pretty wild things. I mean, when you look at this new Chevrolet Malibu that we're going to be producing in our Fairfax, Kansas facility, I mean, this is a beautiful looking car that is in the very boring mid-sized family sedan segment. So you're starting to see things really get shaken up. And Bobby, I know you like your sports cars. Wait till you see this next generation Camaro. We're actually going to be showing it later this month in Detroit at a special event for Camaro enthusiasts out on Belle Island. And let me tell you, this is just a gorgeous car, a great transition from the current Camaro, which has been so successful. And the last little positive run that the Mustang has had, well, that's going to be over soon.
Spoken like a true GM man. We're talking with General Motors Head of Consumer Affairs, James Bell. James, there were also some major investment announcements made earlier this week. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers and audiences what GM is doing to reinvest in the U.S. facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we announced last week about $5.4 billion in investment all around the U.S. Again, so many companies are looking to take production offshore when it makes more economic sense. Well, we see that, number one, there's a great economic sense of continuing to build here in the U.S., but more importantly, it's the longer-term kind of the waves of impact that investment can have. You know, as an example, we announced $174 million of that is going to be going to Fairfax, Kansas, where we're producing that next-generation Malibu. And I think we're adding about 1,000 jobs and retaining another couple thousand. But that, for me, is not the story, Bobby. It's about the fact that if you look at these investments, it's like dropping a stone in a lake. The waves and waves and waves that come from that stone hitting the water's surface is really the impact here, because when you have a production facility that's reinvesting in its community, that has so much impact. I mean, from the local gas station to the local mechanic to the guy who's working in the cafe and making sandwiches and serving coffee for the employees. And it just has so much impact beyond just the actual facility itself. And that's really what I'm most proud of.
Well, we've talked about the big picture, and I know that that's huge and how that affects the family. GM executives also awarded a new Chevy Malibu to an Iraq War veteran, Trent Brining. Talk about vehicle giveaways and how that's part of this special milestone announcement. That's the huge part, and then let's bring it down to the individual, as you said, the family part, and this is truly a family giveaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, we're very proud this week to deliver, I should say, the virtual key. And I say virtual because it's to a vehicle that doesn't quite exist yet, that new Malibu I've been mentioning, to retired Corporal Brining, who was actually injured in Iraq in 2008, has gone through numerous surgeries on his arms and legs to get him back in order. He still has the Chevrolet pickup truck that he took his then-girlfriend, now wife, out on their first date in, and they now have a young family themselves. He's really committed to General Motors, committed obviously to his country. He's given great sacrifice. So we wanted to thank him for that. And again, to kind of pull back the idea that 500 million vehicles produced around the world, well, what does that mean to people who are actually using these vehicles? And so we're happy to do that. We're also going to be doing it in different facilities around the globe. We've got special events going on in South America, in Europe, in Asia, and our different facilities to make sure that we're rewarding those customers as well, and finding special ones to make announcements like this.
Well, with the continuing projects that I see General Motors not only developing but planning and implementing, and then with the leadership that we have at GM, it's obvious that there are a lot of good traction. There's a lot of beautiful automobiles. I can't wait for the new Camaro. You'll have to get back and share that with our Car Connect listeners. James Bell, head of General Motors Consumer Affairs. James, thanks for joining us today, and congratulations. Great job.
Oh, thanks, Bob. It's always a pleasure.